Hello chess friends, and welcome to your Zard of Chess channel, and welcome to a really special game that I prepared for you today. We have here Leela C0 versus Stockfish in a little bit different approach, because if you have followed maybe this TCEC competitions and some other computer chess championships, then you know that the engines have to play some pre-range lines, maybe 5, 6 moves, 10 moves sometimes in the Ruy Lopez, Queen's Gambit Decline, or maybe in some other openings. So they have to play one particular opening. But this clash that you see now between Leela C0 and Stockfish is a little bit different because they had to play pre-arranged opening lines played by the top grandmaster and former world champion, and of course one of the greatest chess players of all time, Magnus Carlsen. So Leela and Stockfish had to replay sort of the famous Magnus Carlsen game, and among them I found really an amazing, beautiful game played by Leela C0 versus Stockfish, and it's actually a replay of a beautiful game played in 2016 between Hikaru Nakamura with the white pieces and Magnus Carlsen with the black pieces. And actually here you really see the differences between Magnus Carlsen and maybe the Stockfish engine, because in one particular moment Stockfish will simply deviate from the Magnus Carlsen idea. Magnus had a different approach, Stockfish had a different approach. Let's see now who was more successful. In my opinion, this is really a dynamic approach here by Stockfish to continue really sort of a static Magnus Carlsen game. Be prepared. This is really epic how Stockfish can really counterplay this Magnus Carlsen's idea. So let's see now the game, and then I'll show you of course in which moment Stockfish changed simply the Magnus Carlsen's approach. So here in the first move, Leela C0 or / Hikaru Nakamura of course played the move E4. Magnus response or Stockfish response was E5, knight to C3. We have knight to C6 so far. The Vienna opening, the Max Lange defense. We have bishop to C4. Common approach here, knight to F6. We have D3, and we have now the so-called Vienna hybrid. And now here in this particular game, Magnus against Hikaru Nakamura, and of course Stockfish against Leela C0 attack now the bishop. And it's a common approach. It's, I think, a good approach to chase the bishop. The bishop can be trapped, but of course the downside here after knight to E2 and knight takes C4, D takes C4 is that suddenly white has a great grip on light squares and has now a great control on the square D5. So now Magnus / Stockfish played bishop to E7, kingside castling, and now queen to D3, putting more pressure against the D file, because in order to beat for the D5 square, black needs to play the move C6. When that happens, you have then a weakness on D6, and that's the way to go. So that's why white continues now the pressure on the D file, hoping now finally black to play the move C6. Now comes D6. We have bishop to E3, C6 here by Stockfish, and now F3 also here by Leela C0, getting of course a nice grip on light squares, because in the beginning of this trades of pieces, white gave up the bishop for a knight in an early stage of the game. So that's why white needs now to secure the light squares by putting more and more pawns on this square. So here bishop to E6. Now comes this idea, a rook to D1, simply putting more pressure against the pawn on D6. Queen to C7, getting out of the range of course of the D file. And now the main strategic or tactical goal is now to play one of these rooks on the D file, supporting the pawn on D6, and if possible to play the move D5, 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 D5. That's the move that you want to play. That's the liberating move for you here, getting rid of the main weakness that you have in the position, which of course, as we said, this backward pawn on D6. In the game B3, look at this. Here's Hikaru / Leela C0 pushed more pawns on light squares, simply controlling the squares that are unprotected, of course, when you trade it off the light square bishop. We have rook from F to D8, and now we have bishop to G5, and now comes the critical moment of the game. So till this moment, the game was prearranged. Till this moment, we have followed the Hikaru Nakamura versus Magnus Carlsen game, and now comes a huge difference in approaches, in human approach, but also in top engine approach. And I think you can really see here the differences, why the Stockfish engine is, for instance, so much better than, for instance, one of the greatest chess players of all times, Magnus Carlsen. So in this original approach, Magnus played here H6, and it's not a mistake or something. It's a good move. It's nothing bad here, because after bishop to F6, bishop takes F6, still black has some issues here. Still D6 it's not solved. D6 remains still a weakness, although of course there are several dark square problems that the bishop can attack, but on this diagonal the dark square bishop is not good, blocked out a little bit by its own pawn structure. You cannot play d5 anymore because as we said, white has a great grip around the square. So in my opinion, this is okay. Black is hoping here, of course, to get something, but in my opinion, not really the most active approach. Let's follow the game a little bit more. King to h1 was played, a6, Magnus searched for opportunities, Hikaru blocked him out, a5. The game becomes more and more static, more and more blocked out, which is of course favorable for the knight. We have queen to e3, bishop to g5. Magnus tried to include the bishop into the game, but still there is no access to the d5 square. Now let's see the difference. As I said, after move bishop to g5, Magnus played the move h6. But look at this, what Stockfish is doing now. Stockfish plays the most aggressive move d5, which leads also in sort of a gambit line, sacrificing one pawn just in order to create a massive attack against white's position. And as I said, it's a huge difference really in the best human approach and the best engine approach. Here after move d5, here Leela c0 accepted the challenge, c takes d5. If you play bishop to f6 here, then we have also this idea, d takes c4 comes of course first of all with a direct threat against the queen drops back, and now we will eventually pick up here the bishop on f6. You pick up maybe the pawn, this bishop is coming into the game, but suddenly the position is open, which is of course good for the bishop pair. Now c takes d5, played by Leela c0. So we have now c takes d5, we have e takes d5, and now comes the tricky idea. We have bishop to d5 here by Stockfish against Leela. Also knight to d5 is an opportunity, but Stockfish sensed there could be maybe some kind of an activity here on dark squares. So Stockfish played even the more aggressive approach, played now bishop to d5. We have bishop to f6, and it seems so that something is wrong, because if you take, of course, then the bishop is hanging. But there is this beautiful intermediate move of bishop to c6, attacking the queen first. We have bishop to e5, so Leela wants to grab at least one pawn in this tactical sequence. The bishop will be lost anyway, but why not take a pawn, of course, because after bishop to e5, the queen drops back now, but now comes the issue here, bishop to d6. And look at this, Stockfish gave up a pawn. Stockfish sacrificed one pawn just in order to get this position where the bishop pair is aiming towards white's king. The rooks are very active now, the queen is centralized, the knight is the knights are a little bit overloaded to defense over themselves, because if one of these knights moves, of course, then it could be really huge tactical problem. So from this point on, I think black is taking over, but you have to now be really again a monster to win this kind of position, because if the game reaches now the fully endgame, then white should be much better, because white simply gained the pawn. So here queen to h4, f4 would not be so good, I think, because you can maybe solve one problem in the position, but you're opening another one. Look at this, how amazing really the bishop pair is here. If you cover the dark squares, then you're suddenly opening the light squares. That's the power of the bishop pair. So that's why here Leela c0 tried queen to h4, protecting first of all the weak h2 pawn. So here we have g5, and Stockfish continues the pressure here. Stockfish is not allowing here Leela c0 to breathe. We have queen to h3, protecting everything, and now f5, simply continuing the pressure. Really beautiful move. King to f1, getting out of this mess. We have bishop to b4, attacking now the knight twice, and now Leela found an interesting way to defend his position, because if you play something like bishop takes c3, then of course we first take out the queen. So far it's not working. You have to step back with the queen. We have here an f4, and now after move queen to g4, the problem is now you cannot again play bishop to c3, although the knight is hanging temporarily, but it's not working. Knight to c3, queen to c3, but suddenly you get some perpetuals. There is now also the problem around the square d8. In order to stay in the game, you have to play something like king to f7 instead of king to f8, but I think with queen to h5, with a couple of perpetuals, white can stay in the game, and this is a draw for sure. Although black is up a whole piece, but the king is naked, it's not working here for white. So that's what for black part. So after move queen to g4, Stockfish found a different way how to activate again the pieces. Play now a beautiful h5, deflecting the queen from the g file. We have king to g7, preparing now a beautiful move, rook to h8. Look at this, Stockfish continues the pressure here with the black pieces. Still the knights are hanging, so now finally knight to e4, getting out of this tactical mess. And now bishop to e4, f takes e4, rook comes now finally on the h file, queen drops back, and now rook takes h2. Now the rook is coming in a beautiful way into the game. We have here rook to d7, a check. We have king to g6. It seems so that the king is naked here, but actually Stockfish calculated everything here in a good way. Has now great control also of the e7 square, because here look at this, rook from a to d1 was played. The d6 is so far covered by the bishop, so no checks by both rooks are possible here of white. So Stockfish found really an amazing way to defend his position, and there is of course still this huge threat of rook to h1. Really wild stuff how these engines are playing the game in a different way. So rook to h1 of course here by Stockfish. Anyway, we have a knight to g1, rook to f8, covering now of course here the 7th rank. If you play rook to b7, then bishop to c5 is winning the game. There's no good defense against rook takes g1. We have after rook to f8, rook from f to d5 attacking the queen. Still queen to e6 is solving everything. Rook to d6 is not possible. Bishop is covering the square. Rook to d4, bishop to e7. Here Leela found an interesting way how to get out of this mess around the square g1. We have now queen to d3. There are now two threats. The first threat is of course e5, this cover check by the queen, but also rook to d6. After rook to d6, bishop to d6, then this other rook comes into the game, and then you lose the queen on the 6th rank. So that's why Stockfish gets out of this mess. King to g7, rook to d7. We have a rook to f7, covering everything on the 7th rank. Really important defensive move. Queen gets attacked here on the c4, and now queen to f6. Stockfish is staying still active with the pieces, is not trading off pieces when you are on the attacking side. Of course, you should not simplify the game for your opponent, although it seems like a strange position. Although it seems that black is still endangered here, but actually I think white is more endangered, because now in the next couple moves this bishop will come into the game, and there is now also maybe the opportunity to open the f file. Really stunning ideas here by Stockfish. So rook from f to d5, we have queen to h6, we have rook to d3, and now comes another stunner, f3 here by Stockfish. If you play rook to f3, then rook takes f3. You have to take out now with the pawn. Queen comes into the game. Look at this, the queen comes again on h2, and the game is over. King to f1, for instance, rook to g1 is one of the sequences that is winning for black. So after move, this brilliant move f3, we have now queen to d4, first a check, king drops back, and now after rook to f5, trying to trade off the pieces, we have rook takes f5, e takes f5, and now another brilliant move, g4, again with the same problems. So for instance, if you try queen to g4 here, then you get queen to c1, and again the game would be over here for white. Look how Stockfish is attacking this position here, although black's king is also endangered, but Stockfish finds always ways to somehow defend, but also counterattack immediately with all of his pieces. So after move g4, we have g takes f3. Now the queen is again coming in a beautiful way into the game. King to e2, queen to g2. We have to cover now, and now after queen takes f2, king to f2, finally the bishop comes into the game. Bishop to c5, king to e2, and now another brilliant move by Stockfish, not take out the knight immediately, because if you take, then of course maybe there are some trades here on g4. Still black should be much better, but this is much more correct what Stockfish did. g3 passing through, the knight doesn't have any more squares to escape. Here we have f4, rook takes g1. We have now king to d7, king to h6, king to f3, b5. We have rook to d5, bishop to f2. Leela took now the pawn, and now it's really strange. Look at this, rook to a1 here. Maybe white can also battle with this here very annoying pawns here on the queen side. Rook to a1, a4. We have rook to e1. We have rook to c8. Rook comes here, and now king of course gets closer to the action. Very important move to include now also the rook into the king into the game. Rook to f8, king to e7, rook to c8. Bishop comes here, rook to c6, cutting off of course the king's ability to play. Now comes rook to e2 here by Stockfish, king to f1, and now a beautiful move here g2. If you take, of course, the rook, then this pawn will be promoted here to g1. So we have king to g1. Now with the idea, here comes the tactical idea, bishop to e3, kicking away the king, and then promoting here to g1. Rook to e6, that's why here by Leela c0, rook takes e6, f takes e6, king to e6, and now f5. And this is not okay what Leela did here. Maybe immediately to take king to g2, then bishop to f4, but still, look at this. In this kind of lines, the most important thing here is to control the dark squares, and it's not a wrong bishop here. The bishop is covering the square a1, so when we take out now 3 of these pawns, then there is a promotion of the a pawn for sure. So if this would be a light square bishop here, maybe on g1 or on b1 or something, then this game would end with a draw for sure, because it would be this wrong bishop. So now after move f5, the position gets even worse. The king to f5, we have c3, bishop to c3. Here Leela c0 messed it up. I'm not sure why Leela even played the worst move now silently, but of course after bishop to d4, here we have the promotion, and after queen to g4, the game was over. So really, really amazing, beautiful attacking game. Let's go back to this critical moment, the change of the direction of human and AI chess. After move bishop to g5, as we said, Magnus Carlsen played the move h6 here. The game ended with a draw. That's the most important thing here to say. And here, on the other hand, Stockfish played a brilliant d5, letting the position explode here in the center of the board, sacrificed 1 pawn, activated the pieces, and the game is over for white after a couple more moves. Really amazing attacking chess by the fish. I really enjoyed this game because it's a position that I reached many times, not maybe in the same way, but I had my chances to maybe push through somehow the d5 move, got a little bit scared, never calculated the tactics till the end. So the d5 goal in this types of position is your main goal. So that's why you have to, I think, get it somehow, maybe even calculate till the end, because it's a liberating move for you. So it has to be solved. So you see, Magnus had his issues in this position, but Stockfish, of course, the top engine, cannot deny this possibility, of course, in the continuation. So okay, I hope that you enjoyed this game. Really interesting ideas here by the fish, but also by Magnus Carlsen in the beginning of this opening. If you want to see maybe more Magnus Carlsen chess game, you can also check out our series about his approaches in the game. And if you want to see maybe more Stockfish and Leela games, check out our Competent Chess Games Play by Computer series. Here's also the link of the playlist. And if you like this content, hit the subscribe button, and what to say, chess is the best, of course.